So we're going to get the game up in just a moment. Remember, Fabi bid 7 minutes and 12 seconds, thereby winning draw odds. So what that means, of course, is that Nodirbek will start with 10 minutes on his clock. Fabiano Caruana starts with 7 minutes, 12 seconds, and he has draw odds. If the game ends in a draw, that counts as a win for Fabi. That counts as a win for Team Liquid. So it is absolutely of critical importance that Nodirbek wins this on command with the white pieces.
That's just the name of the game when it's Armageddon. And I will say, you know, we speak so much about the momentum shift. Nodirbek did take a crushing victory in game one. It looked like a complete Nodirbek show. But with Fabi getting that opportunity and going ahead to convert that, does the momentum move towards Fabi? And we've got a lot of moves coming in.
Oh my goodness, here we go.
Here we go. We have had the game starting. It's been a lightning fast beginning to this game as we see all the pieces on the board until the moment we jump in. Knight takes bishop. There's a small imbalance. This came from the Italian game. And against someone with Italian heritage like Fabiano Caruana, will this prove to be an inspired strategy? Now blowing open the center, Nodirbek Abdusattorov.
What on earth happened on the clock? You know, with Nodirbek starting with almost a 3-minute advantage, we're talking about an opening, the Italian, which has been played so many times, still in the early stages. He's just let go of half of that clock advantage.
Fabi's used less than 1 minute. So, like, Nodirbek here has clearly had a big thing somewhere. That is very interesting indeed.
Yeah, it looks like he tanked for a while, a bit earlier in the game. We'll check if those clock times are correct. But for now, Fabiano, burning too much time himself, needs to decide what to do. Does he trade pawns in the center? Does he just sit there and set up the barricades? He's facing the bishop pair. He does open things up, though, the white queen jumping out.
And this is so tempting to do, right? Not to keep the tension when a draw is enough for you. You're always attracted to the possibility of trying to liquidate matters, and Fabi goes and does it for the second time, offering a second pawn trade. If this one's captured, the side pawn will come into the game, also destroying Nodirbek's pawn formation. I think he has to keep the tension, Nodirbek. You can't go for pawn takes pawn here.
So you're saying that Fabiano, Team Liquid, needs to liquidate this position. It does look like a wise idea. He wants to maybe trade off more material. There is a chance to win a pawn. You can grab the b4 pawn right now due to a pin along the a file, but maybe not the most important pawn to win. You would end up with tripled pawns for black. Fabiano more likely to be looking in the center of the board for the action.
And Nodirbek's eyeing some tricks of his own. In a must-win situation, you've got to do that. Pawn takes pawn could potentially also be met by the queen and the bishop lining up. That's a tender spot on f7. Right. Queen b3. You'd hit the pawn on b4, but more importantly, the one next to the black king.
That is the weak spot, the weakest spot in chess in general, in most openings. So Fabiano will be watching out for that one. I would assume that he's also looking at bringing his bishop out to neutralize that idea in the near future.
And we're talking about the queen potentially moving across, participating in an attack here, but also bear in mind the queen is one of the defenders of the pawn on e4 as well. So white's position isn't without its lose points. Interestingly, shoving the pawn forward here certainly brings about a different set of challenges. And it's Fabi now trying to keep things a little bit more open, a little bit more flowing. He certainly feels like he has a lot more space in the game than the game that he lost.
Yeah, that's a great move from Fabiano, trying to clarify, clear the board here, going for some exchanges, but it cost him over 1 minute. That's a huge time investment. There we see bishop for knight trade. We'll see maybe the queen's leaving the board. Which way will Nodirbek recapture? At least now Fabiano, he knows he's got less material to deal with. He's getting closer to the endgame, getting closer to safety.
Fabi is a calculation beast, and that's what he did. He took those few extra seconds, but went for the most direct, concrete line, which forces pieces and pawns off the board. You know, if you take that knight with the pawn, the rooks will come off, the black knight will start jumping to attack the queen. Let's point out, pawn takes pawn still in the air. Fabi playing for the activity. He brings his queen to a very strong square. Watch out, move that rook that's being attacked on a1.
Yep, the white rook is hit. Not so many squares to use to defend it. You could maybe push your pawn up to block as well, but more likely the white rook is going to move. There we go. And the black bishop now ready to jump out. Fabiano did sacrifice a pawn, though, in that little melee, in that little transformation, and he needs to find a way to compensate for it.
I'm getting flashbacks here, seeing another knight move back to the back rank, but this is obviously a very different game and a very different position to the one that we saw before. The amount of activity and the amount of freedom with which Fabi is playing right now, it just feels comfortable for him compared to how we saw before. Take a look at the time on the clock. He is still down, but he's not down by that much. He's managed to narrow the gap a bit to 1.5 minutes, but he has to continue to do that because you don't want 2 minutes versus 30 seconds, for example.
This is dangerous for Fabi. I mean, Nodirbek has that extra pawn. It's the opposite color bishop complex as well, so the majors are super important. That white bishop is about to land on the longest diagonal, bishop on b2. You know, there's a tender spot on g7, looking at setting up some batteries as well. And of course, the material advantage. I think this gives Nodirbek quite a bit to fight for in a must-win.
Yeah, great start for him. Fabi again in the tank. It looks like Fabiano, he's playing 2 or 3 quick moves, spending a minute. 2 or 3 quick moves, spending a minute, but you cannot get away with that rhythm in Armageddon chess. Nodirbek looks locked in. Fabiano needs to get some activity. Maybe it's a rook move. Maybe he's going to reposition the black queen that's about to be hit by the white bishop. Either way, you need to be quick.
You can think about trying to trade the queens off. Queen d4 is a move that comes to mind here. But move Fabi 3.5 minutes, and there's a lot of moves left to be played. If it comes to it, a player like Nodirbek, Abdusattorov, he's an assassin. He's not going to shy away from the possibility of trying to flag the world number 3.
Queen d6. We spoke earlier today about queens maybe not the best blockaders of pawns, David, but in this particular instance, he wants to try and stop the activity stone cold. Remember, not necessarily the greatest mindset to be in, but Fabi isn't here to blow Nodirbek off the board with amazing moves and a crushing victory. A draw will suffice.
Yep, this queen, not a happy blockader, but she's aiming to corral the white d-pawn, the extra pawn in this scenario for Nodirbek. It's on a light square. It can get hit by the black knight as well in the near future, and he cannot connect his pawns, Nodirbek. A very important detail, he cannot play c4 in the near future due to the black bishop's pressure on this diagonal. So he's aiming to regain the material. A very good move from Fabiano. He keeps playing these very kind of principled moves, very correct moves, but costing him the time. Nodirbek frozen as well. This is definitely the calm before the storm, before the scramble.
Let's talk briefly about the white plan to win, because frankly, we have to win at all costs. Where do you see the pieces living on the board? If white had 2 or 3 free moves to place pieces wherever you want, where are we going?
He's showing us the way, right? He activates that rook, the rook lift, and it'll come to the center of the board if it needs to defend that pawn. The c2 pawn can also move forward to really consolidate that d5 stronghold that you have, the passer that you have in the position right now. So a really nice find that. The bishop is about to land on b2 as well. And as long as Nodirbek can keep the pressure, keep the pieces on the board, not trade too much, the biggest plan is flag Fabi.
Yeah, that was a great decision, by the way. That white rook is super strong. Fabiano hunting down white's central pawn now. Heart rate's rising. We saw Nodirbek shaking his leg. That's his trademark. He's always about the adrenaline. Even in longer classical games, he wants to get the blood pumping. Fabi, though, with the threats. If that white d-pawn drops off, a draw is very likely, even in an endgame, even if white has an extra pawn. So he holds it. Nodirbek here. The black knight retreats, but the white pawn can continue to advance.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, and my first thought, my 3-minute chess brain instantly went, oh, you're attacking it? Push. Push harder. And when you're done, push again, because this is looking potentially promising now for Nodirbek.
It's looking more than that. The pawn it's not the only one that's going to push. After d6, the knight is forced to move away. The rook is going to land on d5 with a double attack, hitting the queen and the bishop. Nodirbek surprised as well. Has Fabi missed this?
He spotted it. Nodirbek, he's going to move his pawn forward. There we go. And the black knight had to move. Now, stepping forward with the rook is a double attack, hitting the black queen and bishop, but the black queen can drop back and defend. Fabi, though, losing 2 moves. He moved his knight back, had to move it again, opening up his king.
Does rook d5 still... I guess the queen can drop back to c8 work?
It's the only square that stays connected to the bishop, but what's the follow-up that Nodirbek has right now? He comes in with the knight instead?
Is the follow-up pushing the pawn again?
It will be soon.
Yeah.
First, the black queen is hit. Big decision. He trades off that pesky white knight. But once this bishop is recaptured, it's going to be so tough now to get to white's extra pawn. That d-pawn is going to just throttle the black pieces here, paralyze the black army, as the black rook acts as a blockader now. But Fabi does not look happy. At least he's closed the time deficit to within a minute.
Yeah, and that is progress. You know, you place all your pieces on the light squares. The white bishop cannot attack a single piece of Fabiano Caruana's right now. He still needs to make progress. Nodirbek's spidey senses are tingling right now. He's looking at ideas. There are pawns on the king side that can be picked up. He's first lining up the rook to slide over to the G line. Stopped.
Maybe a missed opportunity. The white bishop could have actually sacrificed itself for a pawn to blow open the black king a couple of moves ago.
What?
Now the black knight is jumping. Now the white bishop sidelined and about to get hit. This feels wrong. Question mark attached. The black knight can jump. There we go, hitting the white queen, hitting the white bishop. Fabi's not out of this yet.
No, he's back in the game. He's back in the fight. Now that the knight has improved, he needs only a draw in the position. It's still material balance. It's one pawn down, but that pawn is blocked. Now it is a material balance. As the queen steps in, Nodirbek has lost most of his advantage.
And this
Board and
feels,
clock.
yeah, it feels like it's things are starting to subside a bit. They're starting to chill a bit. Abdusattorov down to just under 3 minutes. Fabi now starting to play a little bit faster, 2.25 minutes on the clock. So about 30 seconds separating the two players right now. But it does feel like the biggest bit of danger is over. That said, that's only so far, because the biggest danger to come is going to be on the clock if we do get into a blitz finish.
And as long as that d6 pawn is alive, Fabi is the only one who needs to be careful. He's desperately trying to get the queens off the board, but Nodirbek will not let that happen. He gives a check. Check is blocked. Oh my God, he's made a blunder.
And now the white rook can step forward. This idea we saw earlier, the rook could have
theme.
gone to d5, winning the f5 pawn. There were tricks, discovered attacks there. That would have given white a winning advantage, but still in the air.
It's the same theme as we saw earlier, and again, earlier he didn't immediately play it. Now he also didn't immediately play it. King g2 instead. Are there options to play it on the next move? No, there aren't, but still maintaining the advantage. King coming up to f3. We're getting really aggro here.
Wow, leading from the front, that king, the white king, might continue its journey up the board to the f4 square, but for now, Fabiano is trying to lock down that flank. He is paralyzed, immobilized that black rook, so Fabi just has to wait.
Fabi just has to wait, and Nodirbek has to find a way to get his queen onto the other side to infiltrate black's camp. It starts with a check, falls back, now attacks the b6 pawn. Black is just overloaded. The rook on d7, what rook is even that? Absolutely out of the game. Essentially, Nodirbek has an extra rook in the position.
Great call there from Nodirbek. He's going to use his king as a defender. Now the white queen is going pawn hunting. The black queen caught on the wrong side of the board. You can safely pick up this pawn now and restore your earlier material advantage. That's just the first step for Nodirbek. He still needs the breakthrough. Later it will be improving the white rook. But for now, job one done. He's a pawn up, minute up on the clock.
And crucially, the plan is getting simpler. We now have a situation where we can start to create multiple weaknesses. We can look at pushing the A-pawn and make things uncomfortable on two fronts at once. There are very few complications that can happen now to prevent this win.
It's getting closer. The black king out in the open. The white pawn so strong right now. Just no easy moves for Fabiano. That's going to be such a big handicap for him in this ensuing time scramble.
And Nodirbek is one of the strongest players in the world when it comes to the dynamics of shuffling around with the major pieces on the board. Somehow, when it's him, it always lands at the right spot. He goes for a queen trade, completely in control in the position.
Now the black rook is caught in two minds. If it ever moves, if it ever takes the D pawn, then the B pawn will be the one that falls. This rook endgame, it was the best position Fabi's had in ages, but it's all about the clock now.
It's all about the clock, and White's king's coming forward. Lost on the board, lost on the clock. Fabiano Caruana about to get eliminated. If Nodirbek can finish this off, he's so close. Picks up another pawn on the other edge. The h5 pawn weak.
This is so easy now for Nodirbek. He's going to slide his rook back to the 5th rank. Everything's defended. Black is a pawn down. The black king is off on a limb, doing nothing offside. He's going to break through on this right flank. The king is coming. Fabiano is desperate now.
Beautiful move. That a5 pawn could not have been picked up. King g6 would have won the rook. The king is anyway coming there. Fabiano Caruana knows it. He's giving up hope right now. The last few moments here at the EWC for the world number 3.
Last bit of calculation. Nodirbek wonders what will happen if the rooks come off. White is ahead in the race though. The white king's going to step out of the way, or this pawn is going to push, and the race will begin. And there we go. Nodirbek fist pumping. Fabiano resigns.
Nodirbek, Abdusattorov, Navi make their way into the quarterfinals with an Armageddon victory over Team Liquid's Caruana. Absolutely incredible stuff in this final match. There were so many twists and turns. They're very, very solid compared to the topsy-turvy nature of some of the other matches we saw, but nonetheless a thrilling